Now, one thing that is already universally known at this point by the general public is the fact that Disney is in full-on damage control mode when it comes to their upcoming movie Snow White 2025, the live-action remake, whatever you want to call it at this point. It already is going to be considered a box office disaster. Even Disney themselves are actually projecting this out to be a box office failure on their part, and they all saw this coming because, look, we already know that the budget for this film is absolutely ridiculous. We're talking about hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars when it comes to Snow White, on top of marketing funds that are actually being poured into this movie. But what's interesting about Snow White is that after the UK premiere was cancelled, that was by far the biggest signal that Disney is in pure panic mode at this point when it comes to the critics, when it comes to the bad press, as well as when it comes to those that are very vocal and really speaking their mind and really throwing their opinion out there about this movie. Now, one thing about Rachel Zegler is that we know that she's not helping at all one bit. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So one thing about Snow White 2025 is that we already know that there's a lot of issues going on with this movie, both publicly and internally. When I say internally, we're talking about the in-studio drama happening between both Gal Gadot as well as Rachel Zegler, and among other issues between Mark Webb, the director, and writer Greta Gerwig. There is a lot to discuss here throughout the next couple of weeks. However, when it all boils down to the overall situation revolving around this film, one thing is certain is that with, of course, Disney already in damage control mode over the upcoming projected box office disaster that is Snow White starring Rachel Zegler, part of the damage control was by cancelling the UK premiere of Snow White to water down the level of the backlash and the criticism. Now, this was a sudden decision by both Bob Iger and the Disney Board of Directors. However, recently Rachel Zegler went on yet another rant after the UK premiere of Snow White was cancelled, where she delivered the following. There is a lot of unfairness in this country that sends the wrong message to how we should act around the entire world. And I think that's exactly what we are witnessing here with Snow White. A lot of critics out there like to do a lot of talk only to make themselves heard, and mark my words, those same critics will line up to see me and what we have to deliver for the remake of this iconic princess. The problem right now in this industry, I think, is you have far too many executives that fall for the criticism and the lies coming from so many people on social media. It's just a terrible thing that an actress like myself has to put up with. For someone like me who has to sit in a costume for 16 hours a day, you absolutely sacrifice a lot of your life to fulfill this role, and I won't tolerate such inflammatory comments anymore. I won't stay silent about that because it's something that I don't deserve. It's up to us women to really bring change to this industry that has suffered for way too long by allowing male roles to be dominant in the film industry. Now guys, let me just stop here for 1 second. Now, again, it sounds like she's trying to play the victim card again, as if women are not getting major roles, as if women are not getting prominent roles in films, which, by the way, what she's claiming there is completely false. A lot of women are getting amazing roles, both in film and in television. Alright, so I don't know what she's talking about, I don't know what she's going off about there, but it's basically nothing more than a scapegoat, nothing more than a way to kind of argue or complain about the entire Snow White backlash, and to really divert the attention to something else. That's really what it all comes down to, right? But moving onwards, she continues, and I think what this all comes around as is that there are way too many critics that are frightened of films that star a female lead to succeed in this industry and in this business that I deeply do appreciate and cherish. But there are too many in-studio politics going on right now, especially in 2025, and that needs to stop. Like, it just has to stop. And it's just the most difficult thing to deal with. When working on Snow White, we all knew that we were going to deal with very vocal individuals that just won't let their issues go with this movie, claiming that we hold some kind of a hidden agenda or some kind of ulterior motive with our film to send a message. This Snow White film is going to be the story of a lifetime about a woman who saves society, and if the critics have an issue with that, change up to the story from the 1937 original and the Brothers Grimm tale, then I think that those very same people have other issues to figure out themselves. Critics can be very cruel when they claim that stories like this hold some kind of an agenda. That's not what Disney or I am about. They never were and they never will be. This is about providing entertainment to the people who grew up with Snow White. Now guys, again, we already know that Disney is all about the messaging, that Disney is all about that agenda, that ideology that has been shoehorned into nearly every single brand that they own, whether it was Star Wars, Marvel, or the Disney live-action remakes based on animated classics. Whatever it was, they always had some kind of an agenda or ideology getting thrown in there. And we already know that Bob Iger is like begging for people to come back to Disney Plus, come back to support their Disney movies after all of the nonsense that they did from 2016 until now. Alright, and it really got a lot worse, I would definitely say so, throughout the 2020s, in isolation. But what's interesting about this is that Rachel Zegler, again, really kind of blaming the critics again for why this movie is failing, when honestly, it really has nothing to do with the critics. It all has to do with Disney themselves and how much money they poured into this thing, the casting decisions, the story decisions, right? Everything that is basically changing. The story is all about saving society. That's basically what this movie is going to be all about this time around. Saving a kingdom, gathering a resistance, so to speak, to take on the evil queen and her followers, to actually bring down her kingdom. That's what it's all about. And it's a very odd take for Snow White. I know they did this somewhat before in the past with the Kristen Stewart iteration, but that's not what this is. This is Disney overall, and it just does not fit the overall style of the story that they're supposed to be doing based on the 37 classic, right? Or the Brothers Grimm tale at that. But moving onwards, she goes on to conclude, "It's a damn shame that some families out there think otherwise, that we are doing something hidden toward the public. I, as well as others, have grown very exhausted over it. This is a reimagining of Snow White, and if people have an issue with that, then I think that's the epitome of everything that's wrong in our country today, and why there is just so much division in the United States." So again, she's once again trying to drag politics into Snow White, trying to drag politics into this live-action remake that is so heavily flawed. For those of you that are unaware, they went through numerous reshoots, 3 phases of reshoots to be exact. They started filming this thing back in, I believe it was 2022, and they really went into extensive reshoots at the tail end of 2023, more in 2024, and here we are in 2025. Just weeks away from the release of this thing on March 21st. I think that you're going to see a lot of things going on with this movie and the press tour, and how much of a negative response they're really going to get from the public, and how I think there's a really good shot that this could very well bury live-action remakes by Disney based on animated classics for a very long time. If it doesn't, I would be truly shocked. And if it doesn't, they're going to definitely have to rethink their strategy, and they're going to have to definitely just get rid of the ideology, get rid of the messaging, but we'll have to wait and see exactly what Disney does. Bob Iger promises that's what he's going to do. Who knows? It may very well just be all talk by him, or it may very well be a way that Bob Iger, as I always like to call him, lies to the general public, lies to the shareholders, just to keep them afloat, just to kind of string them along into the following year. He does plan to step down next year, by the way, in 2026, just to give you guys a heads up on that. But overall, I would like to hear what everyone has to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.